Hello all, welcome to the lecture. We know how much important are organization and summits for the exam point of view. In today's lecture, we are going to cover up certain important organizations and summits that have held recently and are very important from exam point of view. So we are going to cover up. Let us start. Firstly, we are going to talk about the recently held Summit for Democracy, which was hosted by United States. And the aim was to renew democracy at home and confront atrocities abroad. So the US president announced another very important thing with it was the establishment of the Presidential Initiative for Democratic Renewal. That is going to provide foreign assistance initiatives, and this initiative will be powered by around $424.4 million and will be aimed to support the free media, to fight corruption, to strengthen democratic reforms, for using the technology for democracy and defense of free and fair elections. So we need to know that what is this Summit for Democracy. So it aims to show basically that how open, right respecting and societies can work together to effectively come together to take the challenges of the present time, such as if I talk about the COVID-19 pandemic or the climate crisis or inequality. So the summit that was held, there were three basic principal themes. Firstly, the advancing the respect for your human rights. So human rights was the first concern. Another concern was the fight against the concept of corruption. Then it was against authoritarianism. So three things: defending against authoritarianism, addressing and fighting the corruption, and advancing respect for the human rights. What is India's stand? If I look at India, India's stand is that democracy should jointly deal with social media and cryptocurrencies so that they are used to empower democracy, not to undermine it. On the issue of cryptocurrencies, India has a very clear stand that India is not going to regularize or give an approval of the cryptocurrency because they can hamper the system of the democracy. Our country, India, this is the largest democracy in the world, and we have around 2005-year-old democratic traditions, and India's democratic experience, if I talk about, it has been quite huge. So referring to the civilizational tradition of democracy in India and citing the ancient city-states under the Lichavis and other people that flourished in India during the late Vedic and Buddhist period, and it continued till the early medieval period. So if I talk about democracy, we cannot say that what is democracy in India is same for any other democratic country in the world, because democracy has taken various shapes around the world. So what is the need? There is a need to work on the democratic practices and the substance. So we need to know what is the meaning of democracy, India being the largest democracy. So improving the democratic practices and systems is important. So when I say we live in a democracy, what are the features of democracy that is important? Transparency, there is accountability in the system. It respects human dignity. We talk about decentralization of power. We talk about like Panchayati Raj system in our country. We talk about urban local bodies. What are they? These are decentralization of power that our democracy stands for. So what are the opportunities for India for this particular summit? India is always in favor of multilateralism. So to attract investments, India is a preferred economic and strategic partner based on shared principles such as rule of law. And India, over the time period, we want more of FDI into the country, right? We are looking for more of foreign direct investment. So it is an opportunity to come forward and showcase ourselves and showcase our democratic values and, establishing the indigenous notion of Indian democracy. Countering China, we can use this particular summit as an opportunity to promote itself as a strategic alternative to China by emphasizing on certain shared principles, that these are the shared principles. Also, this particular summit is important because it is a significant platform of India, an international platform where we as a country can showcase the world ourselves, right? That how much do we respect diversity with regard to the world's largest democracy. But But there are certain concerns also. First concern is international and internal criticism. If I talk about that, US as a country, it lacks the authority to press India until it addresses its own democratic qualities. So Indian administration may vary of US central position in the summit's invitation list, talking about its agenda also and future also. And there are some concerns that are associated with the Indo-Pacific region also. That if I talk about the Indo-Pacific, so if I talk about the Indo-Pacific region, that India is undoubtedly very much concerned that excluding its fellow flawed democracies will make fleshing out the idea of a free and open Indo-Pacific. Because in order to counter the Chinese balance, the Chinese growing hegemony over the particular area, we need other countries also. Like Bangladesh. Bangladesh has not been part of this particular summit. So India is concerned with the absence of some of its closest democratic neighbors. It will contribute to China's perception that the summit is really another Western-led strategic ploy to divide Asia. So that concerns they need to be addressed. Another important topic that we are going to study is the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's yearbook that is launched in 2021. So what is Stockholm International Peace Research Institute? It has quite a particular topic that has been in news for a quite period of time. It is a Swedish think tank. So what are the findings of the book, of the report? So see, it said that India possesses around 156 nuclear warheads at the start of 2021. And it was around 150 at the start of the last year, while Pakistan had 165 warheads, which have increased from 160 in 2022. Also, it talk about China's nuclear arsenal that is consisting of 350 warheads, quite a big number. And that is up from 320 at the start of 2020. And it also talked about the 9 nuclear armed states: US, Russia, France, UK, China, India, Pakistan, Israel and North Korea. That together, if we talk about these countries, they possess an estimated 13,080 nuclear weapons at the start of 2021. And two countries, Russia and US, they constitute of over 90% of the global nuclear weapons. What is the concern that is now? That overall number of warheads in global military stockpiles now appears to be increasing. And it is a worrisome sign because we already know the situation that is there. It's Ukraine versus Russia. And more of Ukraine versus Russia, we can say it is NATO versus Russia. So with the growing sign, with the growing danger that is, it is a worrisome sign that the declining trend that has characterized global nuclear arsenal since the end of Cold War, it has stalled. Now, another concern that was reported was that India and Pakistan, they are seeking new technologies and capabilities that dangerously undermine each other's defense under the nuclear threshold also. And there is a risk that is associated that there might be a start of a new nuclear war. What is the India's stand on nuclear weapons? So India has always remained committed to the policy of no first use against your nuclear weapon states and no use, or we can say non-use against non-nuclear weapon states. So the Conference on Disarmament, it remains the world's single multilateral disarmament negotiating forum. And India supports holding of negotiation on a comprehensive nuclear weapons convention at the Conference on Disarmament. So India has always remained committed to negotiations regarding the your FMCT also. FMCT stands for your Fissile Material Cutoff Treaty. Another important topic that we are going to discuss is your APEC. Asia Pacific Economic Operation, and this was hosted by New Zealand. So this particular summit, APEC summit, so the leaders concluded the 2021 APEC Economic Leaders Meeting by adopting a declaration under the theme of join, work, grow together. There were certain commitments that were made that we will together be tackling the climate change. The countries, they are going to come up together. We are going to negotiate on issues to tackle the climate change. Addressing the digital divide, empowering groups with untapped economic potential, and moving forward towards more inclusive and sustainable growth. Another thing that is important over here, that where was this summit will be held in 2022. So the APEC Summit 2022 will be held in Thailand. This is important, that where the summit is going to happen. So what is APEC? We need to know about APEC. So if we talk about APEC, so APEC is an inter-governmental forum, and there are around 21 member economies in the Pacific Rim that promotes free trade throughout the Asia Pacific region. When was this APEC started? The history goes back to the time period of 1989, and in response to the growing interdependence of Asia Pacific economies and the advent of regional trade blocs in other parts of the world. What is the aim? Aim is to establish new markets for agriculture products and raw materials beyond Europe. And where is the headquarter? Headquarter is something important because it can be asked in exam. Headquarter of APEC is in Singapore, and it is estimated that this particular group represents approximately 60% of the world GDP. So full members, who are the full members? Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, China, Colombia, Ecuador, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Philippines, Singapore, Pacific Islands Forum, Chinese, Bai, and Thailand, USA, and Vietnam. So it is important to know the members also and headquarters, as we have discussed. Another very important thing, that whether India is member of APEC or not. So we should know that India is not a member of APEC, but India had once requested a membership in APEC. And initially it received support from US, Japan, Australia, and Papua New Guinea. But it was decided that India will not be part of APEC, as India does not border the Pacific Ocean as all the current members do. So we need to know that APEC, we already discussed about the headquarters, we discussed about the history, the year of establishment, the members, which countries are part of APEC, only the ones that border the Pacific Ocean. So in exam, if it is asked which all countries are member of APEC, so we need to know that India is not a member of APEC. Another important news we are going to discuss about is resolution 2593 on Taliban. So recently, the India-led UN Nation Security Council, it adopted a resolution 2593 on Taliban. What is this resolution? This resolution is sponsored by France, UK, and USA, and it was adopted by 13 members, and India is part of it. Voting in favor, none against it. So two permanent and veto welding members, Russia and China, they abstained from this. So the adoption of the resolution is a strong signal from the Security Council as well as your international community on your expectations with regard to the region of Afghanistan. So we should know what is this resolution 2593 related to Taliban, it's related to Afghanistan. So concerns are that there is a growing terrorism in Afghanistan, and there needs to be certain measures in order to stop this growing menace of terrorism. So there is a need that it's also a call was made for Taliban to facilitate safe passage for people who want to leave Afghanistan, allow humanitarians to access the country, uphold the human rights, whether they are women rights, whether they're children rights, a lot of things they need to be worked out. So once the Taliban regime came into power, Taliban made it very clear there were certain restrictions that were imposed on people, especially women, that women will not be allowed to go to school. So there are a lot of things in the concerning with the Taliban rule. So Russia abstained, China abstained. So Russia abstained as the resolution wasn't specific enough about terror threats. And China shared some of Russia's concerns also and believed that the current chaos was a direct consequence of Western countries' disorderly withdrawal that should not have happened. So China is of the view that it's necessary for the international community to have talks with Taliban, that is engagement with Taliban is very important. Then only you can come up with certain guidance. So India's recent step, if I talk about that, India has directed a high-level group that is composed of your external affairs ministers, national security advisors, and senior officials to focus on the immediate priorities of India. So recently, India's ambassador to Qatar met with the head of Taliban's political office. So it is the first time that the government have publicly acknowledged such a meeting, which came at the request of the Taliban. And humanitarian aid, if I talk about, India has always supported Afghanistan in many ways. Recently also, India provided Taliban with a good quality wheat. So it was a humanitarian assistance to the public, to the people of the Afghanistan, right? And India has always supported such a noble cause. If I talk about Afghanistan Representation Multilateral Organization, so we know that it is actually part of SARC. And with the Taliban regime, the membership has been under question. So a question has risen over the membership of the country in the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So the question on representation of Afghanistan at the SARC has come up, especially since a similar issue is yet to be addressed by the US. So Afghanistan was admitted into the SARC as the 8th member in the year 2007. So countries, what is the convention that countries do not lose their membership of regional global platform because of domestic political change. But since there are a lot of already issues in SARC and the current situation of Afghanistan has further increased the problem, so there can be discussions regarding the membership also. So similar question is also likely to come up with the Kathmandu-based intergovernmental organization, that is the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. We call it ICIMOD. So what is the way forward? So what is India's Afghan policy is at a major crossroads. So India wants to safeguard its assets, whatever assets we have in Afghanistan. And we have to be, stay relevant in this great game. So India must reset its Afghanistan policy accordingly, because we cannot completely cut off the ties from Afghanistan. There is a lot of things, and India is expected to chair the 1988 Sanctions Committee that look at Taliban sanctions list and participate in the decisions to extend the mandate of UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan. So where it also will have to balance the competing demands from your US, from your UK, from your Russia, from your China, or your France. So that is something that is of concern, that now since Taliban regime isn't there, so what can be done further, right? We cannot completely cut off ties. There is certain negotiation that has to be there on the table. So from that point of view, if I look at it, so what, if we go back to the history, what were the relations that were built on and what currently we are working for? So with this, we end the lecture here. Thank you.